At the beginning of the story, we see a young man named Lee Jae-jung. From an early age, he has had a strong passion for judo, karate, and martial arts. Because of this, he became a second-level black belt champion in Taekwondo. Apart from all this, he spends his free time having fun with his friends. Next, we see Lee's father, who runs a small restaurant. In the evenings, after finishing his own work, Lee helps his father by doing food deliveries. One night, while returning home after making a delivery, he sees a fight taking place in a deserted alley between a police officer and a thug. The policeman is trying to arrest the criminal. Without thinking twice, Lee steps in to help the officer. Just as the criminal is about to attack the policeman with a broken glass bottle, Lee arrives in time and saves him. However, the criminal still refuses to surrender, so Lee knocks him unconscious with a powerful kick. During this incident, Lee notices that the thug has some kind of black electric belt tied around his ankle, but he doesn't understand what it is. The police officer, Venice, is deeply impressed by Lee's bravery. Because he is badly injured, Venice is admitted to the hospital. Meanwhile, Lee is awarded by the police department for his courage. After this, a police officer named Park comes to meet Lee. He tells him that there are around 500 people in the city who have black ankle bands on their legs. These are actually GPS trackers that allow the police to monitor their location. These people are criminals who have recently been released from prison, and they were jailed for serious crimes. The police keep an eye on them so they can stop them before they commit another crime. Park offers Lee a job with them. At first, Lee refuses, but Park explains that they need martial arts experts for this work. The officer Lee saved is so badly injured that he won't be able to return to duty for at least a month. Park says that until Venice comes back, Lee can work with their team. Lee's friends also encourage him, saying it's a good job, and his father gives him permission as well. The very next day, Lee joins the force. However, this department is a bit different from the regular police department. The members don't wear police uniforms, and they don't need warrants to question criminals. Their job is to monitor the criminals' locations and call them whenever the battery level of their ankle band drops below 30%, instructing them to recharge it. If a criminal doesn't answer the call or tries to be clever even after answering, the team goes to the location to question them and, if necessary, arrest them. For the first few hours, the job feels quite boring to Lee, and he starts thinking that he won't be able to do this work for long. But then he notices that the battery level of one criminal's ankle band has dropped below 30%. When Lee calls him, the man hangs up without listening. When they check the criminal's record, they find out that he was imprisoned for rape. Because of this, Park immediately takes Lee with him and heads straight to that location. Lee noticed that one of the windows in the man's house did not have iron bars on it. He told Park that the man had clearly planned his escape in advance by jumping out of the window. So Park went in through the main door to catch him, while Lee stayed outside, waiting for him to jump from the window. When Park reached inside, he realized that the criminal had not changed at all. He was still trying to force himself on a girl. To escape from Park, the man immediately jumped out of the window and ran outside. But Lee was already waiting for him there. He instantly took him down with a kick and restrained him. Park was very pleased to see Lee's bravery once again. They arrested the criminal and took him away. During this entire process, Lee realized that this job was not only enjoyable, but also full of excitement. And on top of that, he had saved a girl's dignity. He thought to himself that there could be no better job than this. 2 days later, they went to catch another criminal who was eyeing small children playing in a park. Lee wanted to beat that disgusting man a little after catching him, but Park stopped him, saying that they couldn't do that. Otherwise, during the investigation, action could also be taken against them. Lee was learning something new every day on this job, and Park was very happy with his courage. Then Park offered Lee to have dinner with him that night. Lee asked if he could bring his friends along too, since they loved free food. Park said, "Yes, of course. I'd be happy to meet your friends." That night, Lee arrived at the place Park had mentioned with his 3 friends. Everyone ate, drank, and enjoyed themselves, and Park got along very well with Lee's friends. In front of them, he praised Lee, explaining how their work had become easier since Lee joined. After the party ended and everyone was about to head home, an officer working with Park called and informed him about a criminal who had been imprisoned for murder. After serving a 15-year sentence, the man had been released from jail for 1 month. He had cut off and thrown away his ankle band, which meant they could no longer track his location. They found out that the man's last known location was somewhere nearby. Lee decided that he would go and catch the man with the help of his friends. One of Lee's friends had a drone, and with its help, they quickly located the man. Lee went alone to capture him because Park couldn't run around that much. As soon as Lee reached him, the man attacked him with a knife. Lee dodged the attack and knocked him down with a kick. But before Lee could arrest him, the man stabbed himself with his own knife and said, "Stay back or I'll do something wrong." This situation was completely new for Lee, and he didn't know what to do. Park guided him over the phone on how to handle such a situation. The man said that after getting out of jail, he had tried to reform himself, but whenever people saw the ankle band on his leg, they mocked him. Park listened to everything and whispered instructions to Lee over the phone. Lee repeated those words to the man, telling him not to lose courage, not to pay too much attention to what people around him were saying, and to stay on the right path as much as possible. He told him that in just a few months, the ankle band would be removed, and after that, he would be able to live a normal life like everyone else. Hearing Lee's words, the man gained some courage, accepted what he said, and put the ankle band back on. That day, Lee learned that it's important to use not just passion, but also presence of mind. Then we are shown a news report on a TV channel stating that a very dangerous criminal named Dongu is going to be released from prison very soon. He is an extremely vile man with around 15 cases against him, most involving children aged 12 or younger. The police take this very seriously and believe that, considering his past, there is a strong chance he could commit such crimes again. A few days later, Lee is passing through the market when he sees a man sitting in a restaurant with an ankle bracelet on his leg. The way the man tries to touch a waitress immediately makes Lee realize his intentions are bad. Lee goes to his office and checks the man's history, finding out that he was jailed for rape. His ankle band has also stopped working due to lack of charging, clearly indicating that he is planning something serious. Lee and Park reach the area and begin searching for him in shops where only women work. Meanwhile, the criminal avoids attention and enters a barbershop owned by a woman. He assaults her and gains control over her. At the right moment, Lee arrives, beats him badly, and once again prevents a crime before it happens. After this, a meeting is held among the police officers to decide which team will monitor Dong. Park says that his team has a brave man like Lee and requests that Dong's responsibility be given to them. When Lee meets Park later, he says that he really likes this job and wants to do it permanently. Park is very happy to hear this. Soon the day arrives when Dong is released from jail. Lee and Park go to the prison to attach the ankle band to him. After fitting the device, a police team escorts Dong to his home. Outside, there are violent protests against him, with people demanding why such a disgusting man is being released and saying he should be executed. Despite this, the police leave Dong at his house and depart. Now, the biggest challenge for Lee and his team in the coming time will be keeping an eye on Dong. Later that night, one of Dong's old friends secretly comes to meet him. They go up to the building's rooftop and talk. From their conversation, it is clear that both of them deeply resent the police because of the ankle band. Dongu's friend's name is Rajar, and until a few years ago, the two of them were imprisoned in the same jail. Rajar asked Dong whether he had thought about the offer he had mentioned in the letter. Dong replied that he wanted to do that work, but he was a bit scared because of the ankle band. Rajar then told him not to be afraid of the police and said that they would handle everything. 2 days later, Lee noticed Dong leaving his house and heading toward an upscale area. The building Dong entered also had a coaching class for small children inside it. Because of this, Lee immediately followed him to that location. Dong went down to the basement, where he met his friend Rajar and Rajar's associate. There it became clear what they were planning. In reality, these disgusting men were involved in making illegal videos of small children and uploading them to the dark web. They wanted Dong to join them in this operation as well. Dongu would be paid a large amount of money for each video, and since he already enjoyed such vile acts, he accepted their offer without hesitation or shame. Lee had followed Dong there, but the vehicle they were sitting in had tinted windows, so Lee could not see inside. Because of this, he simply noted down the vehicle number and left. He then called Park and told him that he could not find Dong. Park called Dong and asked where he was at that moment. Dong lied, saying he had just come out to eat some noodles. Before Lee could locate him again, Dong went and sat inside a Thai restaurant. Dong already knew that he was being monitored, and this time he successfully managed to deceive the police. In the next scene, we see Lee and Park sitting in their office. Lee points out that there are several Thai restaurants near Dong's house, so why would he go so far just to eat noodles? It was clear that there had to be some reason behind Dong entering that building. After this, the injured police officer, whose life Lee had saved earlier, is discharged from the hospital and returns to duty. He thanks Lee for saving his life and gives him a pair of gloves as a gift. With Venice fully recovered, the team becomes even stronger. The next day, a small girl around 10 to 11 years old is kidnapped while playing. At the same time, Dongu's friend Rajar shows him the place where they plan to shoot their videos. The police keep a close watch on them. One night, when Dongu leaves his house to go somewhere, Lee secretly starts following him. Meanwhile, the police receive information about another criminal who had changed his location a few hours earlier and whose ankle band battery had dropped below 30%. Venice calls him for questioning, but the man gives no clear answers and hangs up after talking nonsense. Park and Venice then go to his location to track him down. However, this turns out to be a trap set by the gangster. The criminal arrives with many thugs, and a fierce fight breaks out. At the same time, Dongu also sets a powerful trap to eliminate Lee. While following Dong, Lee falls into that trap. Many of Rajar's goons are already present there to kill Lee, after which Dong quickly escapes. Although the number of thugs is very large, Lee's fighting experience is equally strong. Even together, they fail to seriously harm him. Lee beats all of them brutally. On the other side, Park and Venice are also badly trapped. They fight the gangsters bravely, but eventually the thugs begin to overpower them. Still, they manage to take down most of the gang members. However, during this entire fight, both Park and Venice are badly injured. Meanwhile, after beating all the thugs, Lee continues chasing Dong and reaches the place where they were planning to shoot the videos. As soon as Lee enters the basement area, he hears the screams of a little girl. He immediately realizes that the disgusting man Dong must be there. Despite repeated attempts, Lee is unable to open the door. He then goes outside, breaks a window, and enters. Dong and his friend Rajar are both present inside. Lee starts fighting both of them fiercely, but because Lee is a law enforcement officer, there are restrictions on him. He cannot kill them. Taking advantage of this, the criminals attack Lee with a knife. While fighting both of them, Lee also gets badly injured. In the middle of the chaos, Rajar finds the right moment and escapes. Dong, however, keeps moving toward the girl. Lee fights him hard, but Dong also attacks him with the knife, injuring him further. Just then, the sound of approaching police sirens is heard, and Dong runs away to save himself. Lee risks his own life to save the little girl, but because of his serious injuries, he has to spend the next few days in the hospital. Seeing his son in such a condition, Lee's father is deeply saddened and regrets allowing him to take this job. A few hours later, when Lee regains consciousness, the first thing he asks about is Dong. His senior officers tell him that Dong managed to escape and has cut off and discarded his ankle band. On the other hand, Park suffers a serious neck injury and will need to remain hospitalized for several months. Sadly, Venice loses his life due to excessive blood loss during the fight. Hearing all this, Lee is devastated, as he never imagined that this job would involve such loss and violence. Later, when they attend Venice's funeral, the mother of the little girl whom Lee saved that day also comes. She gives Lee a thank you note written by her daughter and tells him that her child is still deeply traumatized and too frightened to even step outside the house. However, whenever she tells her about Lee's bravery, the girl gains courage. Hearing this, Lee becomes very emotional and wonders what fault that innocent child had. She probably believed that everyone in the world had a heart as pure as her own. Later, when Lee meets Park, Park tells him to stay away from the case because it will now be handled by the crime branch. But Lee has already made his decision. He decides to catch Dong himself with the help of his friends, and his friends immediately agree. Lee still remembers the vehicle number he saw in the basement while chasing Dong that day. Using that number, they identify one of Dong's associates and find his home address. The four of them go there and capture him. When one of Lee's friends checks the man's computer, they find many videos involving small children. Seeing this, both Lee and his friends become extremely angry. In his rage, Lee injures the man to force him to talk. To save himself, the man reveals Dong's location. They then call the police to have him arrested. They decide not to let Dong remain free any longer and plan to catch him that very night. As they prepare for their final mission, Lee's father stops him and warns him that the work is extremely dangerous and asks him not to continue. Lee explains that Dong is worse than an animal, and if they do not stop him quickly, he will continue committing such crime. If everyone only thinks about themselves, such crimes will keep increasing in society. Lee's father realizes that his son has grown very mature and understands that Lee will not stop until Dong is brought to justice. The four friends then reach the area where Dongu is hiding and begin searching for him in every hotel, one by one. During this search, one of Lee's friends discovers Dong's location. Seeing many empty food plates and liquor bottles, he realizes that Dongu is not alone. Rajar and several local thugs are also present there. Lee asks his friend to move to a safe place and then confronts all of them alone. Meanwhile, Lee's friends monitor the entire fight using their drone. Despite being outnumbered, the thugs are unable to defeat Lee. Driven by rage, Lee beats them one by one. When the remaining thugs distract Lee together, Dong takes advantage of the moment and escapes. However, Lee's friends continue tracking Dong using the drone camera. Within minutes, Lee finishes dealing with the others and goes after his final target, Dong. Lee stays connected with his friends on a call, and they guide him accurately by watching Dong's location on the camera. Eventually, Lee catches up to Dong, and a fierce fight breaks out between them. It becomes clear that Dong is a strong opponent, and Lee takes many blows. At one point, Dong nearly defeats him, but with the help of the drone, Lee's friends manage to injure Dong. At that moment, Lee remembers the little girl, and his anger surges. He gets back up and defeats Dong completely, rendering him unconscious. Dong no longer has the strength or courage to fight or escape. Lee handcuffs him and takes him away. In the end, Lee is honored for his bravery. The little girl also comes out of her house to congratulate him. She is largely recovered from her trauma, and her face is once again filled with happiness. Lee realizes that this is the only work he wants to do in life. Nothing else can give him this kind of fulfillment. If you liked the video, don't forget to like it. Subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.